Hi, I'm Andy McNamara. You are watching Bent TV. Today I am speaking to Luke Williams, who is a journalist who has just put out a book called Ice Age about his very interesting life. Luke, welcome to Bent TV.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now let's chat about your book. Let's chat about what's the impetus for your book, maybe.
Well, I moved in with some friends of mine who were living in the outer suburbs of Melbourne in a place called Pakenham because I wanted to write a story about the Australian underclass and the Australian working class because I felt that that was a good place to get stories that wasn't being done and was my edge because I've been a dodgy person, semi-dodgy person since way back who's known semi-dodgy people since way back. And they were also addicted to drugs. They were also addicted to meth. And that I didn't understand because I thought we'd had meth in the country for a long time. So why are they suddenly losing teeth and getting scabs on their faces and robbing houses more than what they normally do? And I used drugs with them in the house, very quickly became addicted, descended into psychosis, masturbated for 16 hours at a time, started believing that a girl who came to the house was my ex-boyfriend who'd had a sex change operation. Told her on a few occasions that I didn't like her shoes, but everything about her looked normal, that she could pass for a girl. She'd know what I was talking about. So I had all these experiences and realised when I got out, the problem is that from about 2011 onwards, and this was in 2014, we had crystallised meth in the country, and the meth that we'd been using beforehand was powdered meth, and that's where all the problems have arisen from. So powdered meth we've had since about 1988 as our main stimulant. We called it speed for a little while. Come the early 2000s, we called it meth. And then this new drug, crystallised meth, is powdered meth turned into crystals.
Right.
And this should be information that everybody has access to, I think, that's
Right.
really hard to find and took me months to work all this out, which is, about 5 times stronger, but can be up to 10 times stronger than powdered meth. But we also called it meth, but it's virtually a completely different drug. So it needs to be approached with caution.
I mean, there's a lot of craziness going on, and obviously, this drug is the cause of it. You had a drug addiction history prior to that.
No? Yes, I did, yes. No, where are you getting this stuff from? Crazy, no.
It was a brave and some might say stupid move to then
Who said that?
Go and closely associate yourself with drug addicts again. Are you suffering for your art?
No. It's not art. It's finding good stories and selling them. So it's what happened is okay, yes, all right, you put me on the spot. I did have a history of drug addiction.
Sorry about that.
I went to rehab in 2008. I have made a bit of a sort of public episode of all this, so it's okay to bring it all up. And so I got bullied at high school because people were jealous of my looks. But no, actually because I was gay and I got called a faggot and all that kind of stuff.
I understand perfectly.
And then I had really bad anxiety when I left high school. And I turned to amphetamines because I was kind of room bound otherwise. Mm-hmm. And amphetamines have the effect of bolstering your ego and your confidence and reducing your anxiety.
Right.
And I abused, but then over time, it makes your anxiety worse. So I got involved in an addiction cycle. I got over that. And then I worked at the ABC in later life. And I really wanted to be a radio presenter, and I failed miserably at that around about the same time that I broke up with my partner. And I turned back to drugs then, and I wound up in rehab in a place called Logan in Queensland. And that was start of 2008, and ever since then, my goal when I got out of rehab was just to use drugs every now and then and not get addicted, and that's what I did. But because I'd spent so long in drug circles and hanging out with petty criminals and all that kind of stuff, they were always my circle of friends. And I always drifted back and forth between them and used drugs with them before.
So do you call yourself now a former drug addict or a recovering drug addict?
Yeah,
or
a former drug addict because, some people say, I'm always an addict. I think people say that because so they know I can't just have that little bit of drink because that way I'll completely lose it. Yeah, I was a drug addict. I'm not now. And I've written a book about it, so it's all turned out quite kind of well, I guess. I moved in with them believing that I could just use drugs every now and then with them like I had, and it hadn't had a big impact on my life because it was powdered meth.
Right.
Powdered meth wasn't having a big impact on my life. I was using it, once or twice a month. It wasn't affecting me. I wasn't getting addicted. You cannot do that with crystallized meth. It is a different substance, and it will probably cause harm.
So in your book, you lived in that house and then you moved to another suburb of Melbourne, Footscray, and lived in a house, and there is just some totally insane, totally crazy stuff happening. And some of these people are people with children. Maybe you can explain some of the things, even the whole sort of ice face, like people are picking at their faces, and it's just...
There seems to be a belief that when somebody starts picking their face, it's because they think there's a bug under their skin. But that wasn't what I saw. You don't even realise you're doing it. It's like, I don't know, if you touch your skin enough, you find a blackhead or something, or a lump there. And if you're on meth stimulates, crystallised meth stimulates the same part of your brain as that leads to OCD. It creates, you're just doing that, but it also leads to short-term memory loss. So not only are you doing that compulsively for 30 seconds, you don't remember the 30 seconds beforehand until you go and look in the mirror and suddenly there's a lump there. Now, if you knock that off your face, you'll go, I need to stop playing with it. If you're really off your face and you've been doing that, you go and look at the lump and you go, in the case of this guy Smithy who I was living with, he would go and then look at that and go, something's wrong with my neck. And then he'll start squeezing it. And that's how it then becomes a big festering sore. And in his case, he had a very pretty one under his eye that was leaking, that got about that big, that actually pulled his eye in like that and was like a little volcano that was oozing pus like that. And he kept on, and we were all very confused at the time about why that was happening.
From what I've read, crystal meth addicts having doing these things to their face is actually quite common. He's not a unique case by any means.
No, and they think that they don't realise they're causing those scabs. They think that something's happened and they're kind of healing it by playing.
Talking about short-term memory loss and losing track of time and not quite knowing what you're doing, you referred briefly before to your 16-hour wank. Can you elaborate somewhat on that?
Sure.
You thought you were in your room for 1 hour. That's how I read it.
The short-term memory loss, the obsessive behaviour, the stuff you normally fantasise about with a bit of an edge, and you kind of go, all right, I like that. And then it kind of gets a little bit sort of even creepier than normal. And then it just takes on a life of its own, and it's like someone's just turned on a movie and they know exactly what your tastes in porn are, and they've just gone, okay, but we're going to take it just a little bit further. If you like rough sex, then there's going to be a bit of blood now, and you'll be like, and it's like, and you're like, and then you're still not ejaculating, so then you go, what next? How about a finger in the urethra? You just kind of, but you would never do that, and you would never normally fantasize about it, but it would be in the same general context of, I don't know, dirty old men with twinks or something like that, but they're just taking things way too far. Yep. And to the point where, you finish masturbating and putting to side on the fact that you've been masturbating for 16 hours, that that what you've been masturbating about, you feel like you need to go to the doctor about it because it's so dirty. But they're just on a repetitive loop, and the crystallized meth dries up your body fluids. Well, all amphetamines do that, but crystallized meth especially. So you've got the obsessive behaviour. Yep. You've got the short-term memory loss. You've got the crystal meth does make you very imaginative from the beginning, and you have these movie-like fantasies about all sorts of stuff. And then you've got an inability to ejaculate, and that's how it all happens. And you do it enough times and it just seems like it's normal, and I can't believe the reaction. I'm like, you masturbate for 16 hours? I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with that?